Okay, this is my final prediction for Kell Brook versus Shawn Porter. Well, it's here. Well, the moment is here. The moment we've all been waiting for. It's showtime. Kell Brook finally challenges for a world title against Shawn Porter. Now, when I did my preview and prediction beforehand, I said that I believed that Shawn Porter would basically destroy Kell Brook. And, you know, people think I was a bit harsh. I've gone back and looked at Shawn Porter again with closer eyes. And here's what I gather. And what you'll have to mind me, because I'm going to take bits from here and take bits from there and try and bring them together to bring another reason as to why I think both parties can win the fight. Yes, both parties. So I'm even giving Kell a chance in this fight. Not no hope. There's a slim chance. Not no hope. And here's where I look at things. If you look at the opposition Kell Brook has fought, and I keep going back to this, you go back to the Zinchenko fight, you go back to the Carson Jones fight, the first fight, and I keep going back to the first fight. At that level, Kell Brook should have got rid of Carson Jones. For me, there's a question mark about how big a puncher Kell Brook is at world level. World level, elite level, not B-class fighters and fringe contenders. So we don't know how big a puncher he is at world level, so there's a question mark there. There still remains a question mark about Kell Brook's stamina, because yes, Carson Jones in the first fight we go back to, because that's the fight that where the question marks really start coming out about Kell Brook. And we can't say, since the Carson Jones fight, the first fight, that Kell's been seriously tested since that fight. So this fight he goes into now, we expect him to be tested. The other question marks about Kell Brook are that nose, the way it bleeds. When he got hit on the nose, he goes bleeding profusely and he had problems breathing through it. If Shawn Porter lands early, is that going to be a problem for Kell Brook in the fight? Is that going to bring back memories of the Carson Jones 1 fight? Or has Kell mentally got over that? You don't really know if you get over something until you're back in that situation again and you can get through that situation. Because Kell, since he fought Carson Jones the first fight, hasn't fought anybody and been tested, we don't know. You can't find that in a gym. You find that in a big fight, under pressure, when you go back to your corner and your corner's panicking. And I want to go back to the point about corners panicking. When Kell Brook was being hurt and going back to the corner of, you know, I think Dominic Ingle was in the corner. I think that corner panicked because they'd never seen Kell under that sort of pressure before against Carson Jones in the first fight. And there was nothing in what he was being told to me that gave me any confidence that if Kell Brook gets himself in another situation where he's in problems, that his team's going to be able to get him out of that situation. So basically, I think Kell Brook's going to be, and I'm not having a dig at their camp, I just think they panicked. And they panicked because they didn't expect Carson Jones to do what he did. But I believe that as a trainer, you prepare for all situations and have a plan B for what happens. And I didn't see much of a plan B for Kell Brook when he fought Carson Jones in the first fight. Yes, we talk about the second fight, but the second fight, Kell Brook was fighting at light middleweight and Carson Jones was fighting as a welter. So for me, you know, Carson Jones is no real light middle. For me, I don't really look at the second fight. The first fight, and even the second fight, there were moments Carson Jones had his moments. I'm rambling a bit here, but let me get to my points. Again, Kell Brook as well. If you look at his record, he's never fought anybody with a winning record. 1. 2. He's never fought anyone who's unbeaten. Okay? He's never fought anyone unbeaten. And 3. He's never fought anyone who's live, hungry, and expected to beat him. If you look throughout Kell's career, all the guys he's fought are guys that have been beaten. All have been beaten. And all of them were expected to be beaten. In this fight, Kell Brook is now fighting a guy who's unbeaten, a world champion, fit, ready and strong, in the peak of his fighting career. And, you know, he's coming to win. He's not coming to lie down. You know, he's at the tail end of his career. So he's going to come with some ambition. Now, Zinchenko came with a bit of ambition. and he hit Kell before Kell stopped him, I don't look at the stoppage. I look at what happens in a fight. How are you dispatching these punches? Are you knocking them out clean and moving on to fights? So again, when has Kell knocked somebody out clean, sparkle, bang, first punch knocked him out clean at world level? We haven't seen that. So Kell comes across to me as a guy who is a hurtful puncher, but maybe not a devastating one-punch knockout artist. He could prove me wrong against Shawn Porter, but unlikely. So these are the things, and Kell Brook, inside game, absolutely non-existent inside game, cannot fight on the inside, and my fears are, if he's backed up against the ropes in America, as the Americans are, with the referees, he's going to have a hard time. And I guess you could say the same if Shawn Porter came to England and the fight was being officiated in England. So there's no bias there, it's just what it is. We know that if he's got a referee, he may tell, Kell to stop holding when Kell's in problems, and stop leaning on. But Kell's not one to hold on too much. If you look at his fights, he's pretty clean fight in that sense. But if there's any roughhouse tactics from Shawn Porter, I can only assume that the referee's going to allow that to slide. He's going to allow that to happen, and give Porter every chance, every opportunity possible for Porter to defend his title and defend it well. So those are my concerns about Kell Brook, and a fragile temperament. If we look back to the fight Kell Brook had in America, he was nervous before the fight. And if you look at the fight he had against a journeyman, the journeyman was in that fight. Don't care what anybody tells me, in my opinion, the journeyman was in that fight. The journeyman put up a decent performance against Kell Brook. This is the guy that Kell Brook's going to go out there and take out in style. Yeah, the ending was good. The ending was good. But I'm looking at the fight, as, is this guy really in the elite? Is this the guy who's going to be taking on Mayweather, Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley, T. Thurman? Is he going to be taking those guys out? And I still struggle as to how. Okay, let's look at Kell Brook. What does he bring to the table? He comes to the Ingle gym, and they've produced a bagload of champions. So there's no doubt that Brook is coming from a very good camp. But I would say he's been taught by the best coach we've got in the UK, without a shadow of doubt. Brendan Ingle has produced more world champions than any British trainer that I know. So I think he's the best, and probably the only proven world-class trainer in terms of not just training one guy. I'm talking about training multitude of fighters with a style that has won world titles at different weights. Brendan Ingle, from Johnny Nelson to a British, Commonwealth, European, world, from Johnny Nelson to Prince Nazim Hamid, from Ryan Rhodes to Kell Brook to Junior Witter. So many fighters from that Ingle gym. So there's no doubt that Kell Brook has got the skills there, but I'm not sure about his temperament. Yeah, again, the next thing you've got to ask about Kell Brook, he's a counterpuncher, right? That's what you'll tell me, he's a counterpuncher. So that means that the fight against Shawn Porter, if he's a counterpuncher, and I'm going by what people are seeing and saying, then you have to mind the fuzziness of this new camera I've got here, just going in and out all the time, so autofocus, so apologies for that. If he's a counterpuncher, that means Shawn Porter is a guy that's going to keep coming forward all night, which means that Brook should have the opportunity to let his shots go. Correct? And he should pick Porter apart. Correct? Right, because he's a counterpuncher. He's a guy that's going to make you miss, make you pay. That's Kell Brook. Now people say Kell Brook's a very fast fighter. I would argue with that as well. Kell Brook's a very flat-footed fighter. When I mean a flat-footed fighter, he's more likely to take flush shots because he's not on the move a lot. He's like when he stands in front of you, he's more likely to take the shot clean. With a style like that, he's more vulnerable to getting hit cleanly and knocked out of one shot as opposed to a combination of punches. I say this because he's more likely to get hit with full impact of a punch, and he has no form of defense. If you watch Kell Brook when he's on the ropes, he just pulls his head back, and he pulls straight back from punches. And if you're pulling back from punches, the worst thing you could do is pull back from punches against a guy who throws a left hook. And if anybody knows Shawn Porter fighting, Shawn Porter's best punch, I would say, is his left hook and that winging overhand right. But the left hook is what sets it up for Shawn Porter, and then he throws anything else afterwards. Okay, so Kell's got a lot of problems, I believe, on the night. And all the things he's done it at the level he's done it at. He's not done it any higher, so he's yet to see whether he's got the speed, the power, the movement, and the counter-punching ability, and be able to fight under pressure, away from home, right, against a guy who's unbeaten and wants to knock his block off. Those are the questions that Kell Brook has to answer, but can he answer those questions? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if he's going to be able to deal with somebody who's got a good inside game like Shawn Porter. Now, Shawn Porter, what have I seen in Shawn Porter? Up close, his best punch is his left hook, but he is wild and he does throw punches from out of range. So Kell, if he can be confident in his own ability, and that's a question mark in itself, because I understand, I don't know how true this is, but I believe Kell Brook asked his handlers whether he was ready, and this was in a report I read recently in one of the newspapers, but it said that Kell Brook asked his handlers or his advisors whether he was ready to face, you know, Porter. Now, if you're asking questions such like that, then you mean you've got some doubts within yourself. So, you know, let me fix this camera. You know, you've got some doubts within yourself. Porter, yes, he has fought Devon Alexander, who's not a real big puncher, to be honest with you, and Nalinaji is not a big puncher, and Julio Diaz is a decent puncher, but I'd say he's more of a lightweight. So really and truly, is Porter going to be able to have that rushing in style against Kell Brook? If Kell Brook can nail Porter early, which he's going to have to do, Kell's going to have to go out there from first try and really kick Porter with something hard early to let him know, you know what, tonight, you're not coming in with that nonsense. You're not going to come in with that nonsense. The more I look at Porter, the more he looks like he's kind of shape-shifting into mini Mike Tyson. If you look at his facial structure, his face, and the way he talks and his behaviour, he's almost like a mini Mike Tyson. Maybe not as no way as good as Mike or as explosive as Mike, but you know, I don't know. I see Tyson in Porter, a real rough, rugged, get down, and you know, when it gets dirty, Porter's going to be there. I don't think Brook's going to be there when it gets dirty and nasty. It got dirty and nasty with Mr. Carson Jones, but let's remember Carson Jones had 8 losses. He had 8 losses, and I actually picked Carson Jones to knock Brook out in the, I think, 9th or 10th round, and I didn't come too far for that prediction. So, you know, Porter up close is dangerous, but again, he lunges in with punches, and he does leave himself open to the counter. But is Brook brave enough to stand in front of Porter, or will he lose his balls before he enters the ring? These are questions that need to be answered. Again, he was not impressive for me in America. I mean, you know, he was talking about being very nervous. It was his first show, blah, 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 blah. But this is his second show. And I don't think in between fighting Shawn Porter and the second Carson Jones fight is that enough preparation. Now remember, Kell Brook has also been dropped in his career. I showed a video like this beforehand. So it's not like Kell hasn't been on the deck before. He has been on the deck before. He has been dropped. I think it was much earlier in his career. He was with Dave Calder was his trainer then, I believe. So yeah, he has been dropped in his career by a guy who I don't think a lot of people know about. That doesn't mean anything. He got up and he won the fight. So you know, it's just a case of getting there and hitting him on the chin like any fighter. So my concern is if Porter can get on the inside and land that left hook and that right hand consistently, I don't think Kell Brook's got he's got no defense to the left hook or the right hand. That's my concern here. And you can have good skills Now, if you're looking at who the more skillful fighter is, you've got to say Kell Brook is the more skillful fighter. Who wants it more? Porter looks hungrier. Kell Brook looks like if he's trying to convince himself and the people around him that he is ready. And the other concern about this fight, I have to say, is this no drug testing thing. Now, there has been rumours, and a lot of rumours going around about Shawn Porter potentially being on steroids, and suddenly him having the power to knock out Malignaggi the way he did. People have concerns about that. I don't know how true it is. I can't say one way or the other. But if it is, they need to be random drug testing. So you cannot afford to have people, in there performing and being on substances. Even though there are people in the sport, I'm sure, that are on substances, but they're bringing so much money that it would be silly to expose them, or not at this point in their careers anyway, because they're probably giving somebody somewhere a nice paycheck. So that's potentially what it could be. So you also have a situation here with strength. Who's stronger, Porter or Brook? Brook is a big welterweight, so they say. I haven't seen any weigh-in yet, so I don't know if Brook made the weight first time round. And the interesting thing would be for me, what happens at the weigh-in when the two guys come face to face with one another? What happens? What's the reaction? How do they respond to one another? I have no great confidence in Kell Brook performing in America. I think if the fight was in the UK, I would be more happier with Kell Brook. There's some fighters that can perform away from home and at home. I don't think Kell Brook is one of those fighters that perform well away from home. And question is, who's Kell Brook been sparring for Shawn Porter? Anybody know? And who would you bring in for Kell Brook to spar against Porter? And Porter, I know, he's probably got some good quality sparring in. I don't know who though. It's a question of who he's been bringing in for Brook. But is Porter overlooking Brook? Could he come in lackadaisical? Who knows? But one thing's for sure. One way or another, on Saturday night, all the experts, all the people who think they know about boxing, will either be "I told you so" about Kell Brook, or egg on their faces, and I'll be the first to say, Kell Brook goes out there and destroys Shawn Porter. I say, this guy's going places, because he's now beating a guy who, in the top 10, world champion, unbeaten, and was being talked about of big things. Now, I think Keith Thurman is good enough when Porter overstretches to get countered, and I don't think Porter can rush in at Thurman the same way, because he will get tagged and hurt hard. So I think that's a different fight we're looking at. The big question is, can Kell Brook stamp his authority early in the fight, and can he hurt Porter early in the fight? If he can hurt Porter early in the fight, and he can control the distance and space and not allow Porter to get on the inside, he can win this fight. He can win this fight. But I'm afraid to say, when all the lights are on and it's big time and it's in America, and you're in someone else's backyard, the practice is over, and sharpening up your tools should have been done before you got to the States for the big fight. And I don't think that Kell Brook's skills had been sharpened enough against the very best, or the very best possible fighters he could have had before this world title fight. I don't think so. I think that had Kell Brook had more meaningful fights on his way up, I would have had more confidence in him. but I don't. And the bottom line is, I think Porter wins this fight because of the variables of what I know of Porter, what I do know of Porter rather than what I don't know about Brook. And it's too many red flags in fights. This is not being a fanboy or being a biased fight. You know, it's just too many red flags. Too many red flags, and you haven't fought at elite level. Too many red flags. You're getting rocked at fringe world level by guys who've got losing records. What are you going to do against guys who've got winning records? This is my concern. And if he's meant to be a counter puncher and a defensive genius, you're still getting hit, you're still getting hurt. Those are my concerns. Now when Porter hits him, he's going to hurt him. And I can see, in my opinion, from what I see of Kell Brook, he's open to getting knocked out by one shot. Seriously, one shot. Because I think when Porter connects, Kell's going to have his 2 feet flat. He's not going to be on the move. He'll have 2 feet flat. And he'll get caught with either walking into a shot or pulling away from a shot. And the left hook, I think, will be the undoing of Kell Brook. I really do. So I don't think he's got any sort of defence to that left hook. So unfortunately, that's what I see of the fight. You know, you never know how good a guy is until he's finally beaten. I just think that I don't think that Brook has done the homework necessary at this level. So I go Shawn Porter inside 6. Too ferocious, and all those thoughts I had before about Kell Brook finally are exposed. I think you've got to, in this game, in boxing, if you're going to make a prediction, you don't hide from what you believe. And there are a lot of guys who try and hide around things and just try and pick the safe decision. I'm going with Porter on this one. I said it before, and I'm going it again. And as again, if Kell Brook beats Shawn Porter, hats off to him. Fantastic, brilliant, fantastic. But where does he go from there? You know, is his skills good enough to match with Timothy Bradley? Is he good enough? Could he even mix it with Amir Khan? That's a fight. That's going to be interesting. But will we get that far? For me, all the lights are out on Kell Brook, unfortunately. I wish him all the best. But I'm not setting myself up for any disappointments. All the best, Kell. Ignore what I have to say. You know, you're a man, and you know nobody knows how good you are. Only you know how good you are. So on night, all will be exposed one way or the other. And for those Kell Brook fans out there that are saying I'm hating, it's not hating. It's just what I'm seeing as red flags in a fighter. And for those who agree, well, we'll see. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Love to hear what you've got to say. This is the first of a few videos. I'm out.